Are you ready to level up your ethical hacking setup? Well, in this video, I'm going to show you how to configure Kali Linux for 2025. And that includes customizing tmux and adding some awesome plugins to your shell terminal that's really perfect for beginner ethical hackers and penetration testers looking to streamline their workflow and to really dive into the cybersecurity world with a splash of color. If you're new here, I'm Alupulu, a cyber enthusiast who loves CDF challenges, finding vulnerabilities, and just all things hacking. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive right in. All right, let's start setting up our ethical hacking VM now. So I have already a fresh install of Kali Linux here. And the first thing I'm going to do is, of course, launch the terminal. And I'm going to maximize it, and I'm going to right click and enter into the preferences and change the font size because the font is a little too small for me. I'm going to change it to a 16 point. You can change it to whatever is comfortable for you in your eyes. I'm going to hit apply, and there we go. Now we can start seeing exactly what is in the terminal. The other thing I like doing is here in the application transparency, I like changing this from 5% to a 0%. I don't like having anything being transparent. I know a lot of people, they do like that, and they'll probably even run it at like a 10% or even at a 15%. So maybe they like something in the background. It's either a wallpaper or they like having something in their browser and they can see through the terminal while they're looking into like something on a website or whatever the case is. But for me specifically, I run it as 0 because I want to be focused on exactly what is in the terminal. And if I want to check out like a browser or something else, I'll simply alt tab and do it that way. So now that we have set that up, the first thing I like doing is setting up my Oh-My-Zsh. So let's go ahead and go into Chromium now, and we will Google what is Oh-My-Zsh. So let's do that now. Oh-My-Zsh. Here it is. And unleash your terminal like never before. So what is Oh-My-Zsh? It is an open source community driven framework for managing ZSH configurations. Sounds boring. Let's try again. Yada, 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 so forth and so on. Let's figure out how to install it. So here is the command: install Oh-My-Zsh via curl command. Very simple. Just copy this one liner right here and we can go ahead and paste it. But before I do that, take a look at what the terminal looks like right now. This is the default terminal look. Kali, I can ls, I can la. You can kind of see what the default looks. Nothing wrong with this. A lot of people run it this way. In fact, I ran it this way a lot of the times. So there is that. Let's take a look. So now that we know that, I'm going to clear it and I'm going to install the Oh-My-Zsh. And there it goes. Finished really quick. And you can kind of see here the default, and here is the new theme now that Oh-My-Zsh installed. And here is some text that says, look over the .zshrc file to select plugins, themes, and options. So let's do that now. Let's clear this and we will nano into the .zshrc file. And this is kind of a file that if you're not familiar with this or comfortable with this at all, it is a file that you need to start getting comfortable with, because we usually go in here to start adding in aliases or changing themes, so forth and so on. So here is the first thing that you can change: the ZSH theme. In this case, I like running the Robbie Russell, which is the default theme for the Oh-My-Zsh. But you can click here and copy this link and take a look at the themes. So here are the themes. They are in alphabetical order, but there are a ton of different themes and colors for you to pick from. So I usually like going with the default one, the Robbie Russell one. Now, the next thing we need to do is we need to scroll down here, and a lot of this you can see is commented out. I would recommend you go through, read exactly what all these do. In some cases, like if you want to use a command or run a command, you just uncomment it or comment it back. But definitely helpful to read through and see what this all does. But here we go. Here is a command that isn't commented that we will be adding to, and it is the plugins one. So he says here, add wisely, as too many plugins will slow down the shell startup. And not only the shell startup, but just the shell in general. But let's go ahead and we are going to spice up our ethical hacking VM. So we need to add more color, because I like color. I like color a lot, especially when you're running through or you're doing this for a long time. Color kind of helps you out. So here are some of the plugins that I like running. First off being EZA, which is just a modern plugin for LS. It colorizes it, makes it a lot more easier to take a look at. And so that is that plugin, not to be confused with EXA, which is something similar, but I run EZA. And I'm sure there are a ton of different modern LS or LA plugins that you can add in. The other thing I like adding is auto-suggestions. Oops, I spelled that completely wrong. There we go. zsh-autosuggestions. This is great for beginner ethical hackers and penetration testers. This kind of will show you some of the commands that you've done in the past. Let's say you've run a certain FFF scan and you don't remember how the flags are set up. This kind of auto-suggests it for you. So it is a great plugin to use as a beginner too. The other thing is zshrc. This kind of colorizes like your nmap and your ping and some other things. I love using it. I'm going to add it in. Sudo and then colorize, and then a zsh-syntax-highlighting is another one that adds in a little bit more color to specific things. Last but not least, we're going to add in tmux as well, kind of the bread and butter behind the ethical hacking platform for Kali Linux, in my mind anyways. Now, some other people may use other things in tmux, but I personally like tmux, especially when you start configuring it in a way that will help you streamline your commands and hotkeys. So from there, now that we've finished up the plugins, let's add in some things here. ZSH colorize style, and we will add in a colorful. And the other thing that I want to do is add in an auto start for tmux, so that way tmux automatically starts when the terminal gets started, and we don't have to worry about inputting tmux at the start of every terminal. So now that that's done, that's pretty much it. I'm going to Control O and save it. The other thing that we will be coming back to later in this video is we will be adding in some aliases to the end of this file, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. We're just going to come back to that in a second. So now that that's done, we've saved our zsh file. We've added in the plugins to the .zshrc file, but we haven't actually installed anything into the Kali Linux. So we can go ahead and simply close this terminal, do it the old school way, and then relaunch the terminal. And then there we go. So this is what Oh-My-Zsh is coming back with. It is saying, hey, you're missing these plugins. They're not found. We need to install them, right? So, and you can see here at the bottom, tmux has been started up, but we do need to customize it a little bit going forward. So let's not worry about tmux at the moment. Let's go ahead and install these plugins. So zsh-autosuggestion, let's do that first. And what we're going to do is we're going to go back into the browser, do GitHub, paste in zsh-autosuggestions, click into it. And then we're looking for like the install portion of this file. So did I pass it already? Here it is, install.markdown. We'll click in, and what we're looking for is the Oh-My-Zsh portion of this. So here it is. Simply copy this entire command. It looks like it is a one-liner. Here, clone this repository, okay? And then step 2 here, it says add the plugin to the list of plugins for my Oh-My-Zsh to load. We have already done that. Remember, this is the plugins portion. We've already added that in. And then for step 3, start a new terminal session. So now that we copied this entire one-liner, let's install it. So there it goes. Now that that is installed, let's install the next one. So same thing, GitHub, paste in syntax highlighting. All right, scroll down. This is some examples of what it changes. Here is the install markdown file. And then we're going to click it. And again, we're looking for the Oh-My-Zsh. And here it is, a one-liner. Exact same thing, exact same steps as before. And we have installed it. Okay. All right. So now let's go ahead and install zsh. So let's go back into the browser. We'll do zsh GitHub. Here it is. And then we're looking for the installation part. So let's see, install markdown file. Here we go. All right. And then we're looking for Debian and Ubuntu. So since we're running under Kali Linux, this is the way to install zsh. So I'm going to copy this entire thing, and it's going to make some key rings and make a directory for the key rings to allow us to install this correctly, as well as do some sudo update and install zsh. So there is the command. I'm going to run that, and that's going to install zsh now. All right, so that finished. Zsh is installed. Let's clear it, and I can do ls la. And you see, this is how the default LA looks like. So we do need to exit out of the terminal and restart it again. And now if we did LA, boom, there it is. A lot more colorful, a lot nicer looking than the previous one. That is awesome. So let's clear it and let's go back into the .zshrc file and take a look at what other plugins do we need to install now. So we've installed zsh-autosuggestions. All right, the next one is zshrc and colorize. So sudo apt install zshrc, and we'll let that finish. Okay, that's finished. Sudo apt install colorize, maybe. Let's see if that works. Okay, there it goes. So that is all of it. Now let's nano back into the file. Take a look. So we got zsh-autosuggestions grc, sudo's default, colorize, and we've installed the highlighting. So that is everything for that. The last thing we need to do now is we do need to reconfigure our tmux a little bit. So we need to, I like running tmux more minimalistic, but you can change it in any way you want. So let's go ahead and do that now. What I have done is I actually have a GitHub under neosprings with the dot files. So here is my tmux configuration file, which you can go ahead and simply go to this URL or take a look at the link in the description for this file, and then copy it and go back into the terminal, and then we will nano tmux.conf and paste in our configuration file for tmux. So let's run through this. This is an inspiration from Ham Voki, if I said his name correctly. If you Google like customized tmux, his link is the #1 link on Google. And he did a lot of the heavy lifting in this file. So he is essentially unbinding Control B, which is the default Control B command for tmux. and he sets it to Control A. So it's a lot easier to hit that prefix than it is Control B, Control A. So A is the one that he changes it to. And in this case, he even added in a comment here that you can swap out caps lock from Control. And I know some keyboards have cap locks, Control in the cap locks place, but it is what it is. So you can do a number of different things, but Control A is a lot easier to click for the prefixes for tmux in this case. Let's continue on and I will show you what I mean. The other thing he added is instead of starting tmux at 0, it starts at 1. And if you want to split panes, not windows, but panes, it is using this pipe and this minus instead. So pipe is splitting it down the middle, and then the minus is splitting it this way. So it is simply using the prefix and then adding one of these two commands for the panes, which does help. I don't typically like running it, but you can. The other thing is, let's see, let's scroll down. The other thing is if you want to use your mouse, you can, or you can set this off, and you can remove this where it says allow rename. You could set it as on. I like leaving it off so I can rename them myself. And one of the most important parts here is this section right here. So you can use the Alt keys without the prefix, meaning the Control A. Now that the new bind we have, you can use the Alt keys to go between the panes. So once you've created a pane and you want to go through the number of different panes in the one specific window, you could do that with the Alt arrow. So that is super helpful. And then the other thing that I like doing, and you probably see this a lot in my videos, is instead of going through the panes, I like going through different windows. So using the shift arrow keys, by just holding shift and using the arrow keys, that's how I go through each window very quickly. And this is without using the prefix key to switch windows. So these are two helpful little commands that kind of speed up your workflow for ethical hacking and penetration testing. The other thing is kind of more of the visual aspect of it, kind of minimizing the visuals and setting it that way. So you can simply just copy and paste this if you want, but I would recommend actually going in and taking a look at each of these settings and customizing it for yourself. So now that that's saved, I'm going to go ahead and exit and then restart the terminal. And then there you go. You can kind of see the terminal, how it looks like. It looks like all my other videos. I can simply Control A and hit C, and that opens up a number of different windows. And I can start going through the different windows, as you can see here at the bottom left. And I'm simply just holding shift and going and using my arrow keys. If I want to go to 1, 2, 3, 4, so forth and so on. And if I do Control A, little comma, I can rename it. And the first one is usually the VPN, right? The open VPN for Hackthebox or tryhackme. So there is that. Let's see, if I want to open up panes in the window, I do the prefix. The prefix is Control A, and then I'll do the pipe, right? And then the pipe, there goes. If I want to do it split this way, I'll do the minus sign, and I can do this a number of different times. And if I want to go through each of these different panes, I can hold Alt and use the arrow keys. And there we go. And let's say I want to go to the next window, I can do that too. So you can do a number of different things. So that's how you can kind of speed up your workflow. All right, now that that is that, let's move on to the next thing. So if I wanted to cat the zshrc file, it looks pretty standard. It looks pretty dull in my mind. So let's go ahead and install batcat now. So batcat is just one of those ones or plugins that I like using. Batcat GitHub. And it is essentially just a clone of cat. Here it is. This is what it looks like. So it supports syntax highlighting for a large number of programming and markup languages. So this is what it looks like. I like using it, but there are some drawbacks that I will go into. So let's go ahead and install it. Let's figure out how to install it. All right, I found it. I skipped over it. So it is simply sudo apt install bat. There it is. I'm going to copy that, paste that in, enter in our password, hit yes for continue. And now we have batcat. So we did install bat, but you got to remember bat is actually batcat. So if we want to cat the zshrc file, you can see this is the standard cat. But if we want to use batcat, we will have to use batcat like this and do it this way. And look how much nicer that looks, right? That looks just so much nicer. Syntax highlighting, all colorful. And there we go. So we do need to go actually into this zsh file and add in some aliases for batcat. So instead of using cat, we want to use batcat. And do that is by adding those aliases that I mentioned at the beginning of the video. So let's go and do that. But before we do that, I do want to mention the big drawback with batcat. So if we queue and get out of that and we batcat the zshrc file again, if we're like, hey, I want to copy like, you know, these lines right here, right? And if I copy selection and I quit out of it and I echo, you can see the lines show up, the 11, 12, 13, and the pipe is being shown on there. So it is not beneficial to copy in batcat. Now, if we have already aliased batcat, let's go ahead actually and do that. Let's go into our CSH so I can show you what I mean. We'll scroll down all the way down at the bottom. We'll begin to add our alias, and alias is essentially just means that we're wanting specific commands to be tied together. So we're simplifying our commands. In this case, I'm going to put an alias for cat, which is the standard command that we do, that we like using for batcat. So instead of normal cat, we're using batcat. So let's go ahead and do that. And then the other thing I like doing is alias nmap. So remember, we did install grc. So let's grc nmap so we can get that nice and colorized. And I'm spelling this incorrectly. Do a okay, there it goes. And the other thing is, let's alias our EZA, right? Because we're not using ls anymore. We do want to use EZA, but it's already a standard. But the other thing we want to do is add a few other commands to it. So that's the benefit of aliasing these commands together. So let me show you exactly what I mean. I'm going to do here color, right? We always want color, but we also want to group the directories because that's helpful. And we also want to make them first, as well as add in some icons because that will be helpful as well. And then we can alias LA as well, and then do the exact same thing. Color always, right? We always want color. We want to also group the directories as well. And then we'll do icons. And instead of here A, we'll do LA. Okay, so that looks better. And let's take a look. I'm just confirming that I read it all. Okay, and that looks good. So I'm going to Control O to save it. And now we have 4 different aliases. And again, super recommend you kind of play around, start setting up your own aliases going forward. If you're running FFA scans constantly, or nmap scans with certain tags, go ahead and start throwing those in here. So aliases help out, and I will show you some other aliases that I do, like my breakout. That's another alias that's actually just a flat file of commands that I've saved that I alias, and then I just simply write breakout and it pulls up that flat file. So that's essentially what breakout is, and I have a number of those different flat files that I'm going to show you later on. So, but these are simply the 4 that I'm going to run for this video. I'm going to save this, exit out, and then I think I can source it. Now, if I cat the ZSH file, there it is. So cat is now working in place of the normal cat. We're using the batcat, but remember, going back to what I said before, oh no, if we use batcat, we're trying to make a copy of this, we're getting this. Now, a simple fix for this that I like doing is I'll do a backslash for cat instead, and now I'll do the zshrc file, and that will use the normal version of cat. And you could do this backslash type of thing with a lot of different commands, especially the ones that you have alias. So now it's a lot easier to simply just copy and paste this either into your notes or whatever, or into another command if you're doing it. So, all right, going back into the one file, and remember we left off on the alias lsla, and we made sure to group the directories first and the icons. So let's go take a look at what that looks like. And there we go. So let's go ahead and ls, and there it is. So we're getting it much better now. Oh, I messed up somewhere. Let's go back in. I spelled that wrong. Let's fix that. There it goes. Okay. And now if we do, let's source it again. If we do L8, there we go. So we're getting, and now these grouped, right? These grouped, and we're getting icons, and we're getting this grouped up. So a lot nicer on the eyes. But we are missing something, and you probably noticed it as well. Some of these icons are broken, and that's not attractive. That's not really hacker style, right? We need to fix this. So to do that, we actually have to install a certain font that have more icons than just what Kali Linux provides us. So let's go ahead and do the last step now, installing some nerd fonts to make those icons a little better, so we're not getting these errors. So let's go back into the browser. We'll go here, nerd fonts, and there we go. So here is the first website, nerd fonts, iconic font aggregator. So let's go hit the download file, download link, and the font that I like running under, and they got a ton of different fonts that you can pick from, but I like running under the hack nerd font. So I'm going to download that, and there it is. So we have that downloaded, and let's go back into the terminal, clear it, and go into the downloads file, ls, and there we go. We have the hack.zip file that we need to unzip in the font directory of our Kali Linux fonts folder. So let's do that now. All right, for us to install the fonts, we do need to, and you can see here it is in the downloads folder. We do need to move the hack.zip into the user share fonts folder, and we're getting a permission denied. We actually have to sudo it probably. There it goes. And then let's go ahead and cd into that folder. And here is the standard font. So let's unzip the font, and we're getting again permission denied. We do have to sudo it because we're installing it not for the user, but we're installing it globally. So there is that font being installed, and we can ls, we can see here the fonts we got installed as long as license and the rebeat file. But I'm gonna simply just exit out of that. And now I'm going to start that entire terminal all over, go into the preferences here, and I'm going to change it, and I'm going to find the hack nerd font here. I think the Mono is the one that I like running under, and there we go. So I've set the font under hack nerd font Mono, and those icons are tied in there. So I can ls LA, and there we go. We have such a better font looking, and we're getting the right icons being displayed now. So that is awesome. So that's great. I love to see that. It just looks so much nicer now. Let's ping Google. Whoops. I can't see because the mic. Let's ping Google.com. Just so it looks so much better. So that's everything for this beginner friendly ethical hacking Kali Linux setup. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, feel free to throw them in the comments section below, and I will see you guys in the next video.